and welcome to Rockin the Love. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil. And we are here again on a Wednesday in June.
Not any Wednesday, though. Summer solstice Wednesday.
Oh my gosh, it's a special Wednesday.
It is a special day. Yes, it is. Because summer solstice is the day that it's the longest day in the year, right?
And it feels like it too.
It's
only noon or 1 or whatever time it is, depending on where people are.
It's so true.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. So happy summer solstice. Wherever you are, please let us know you're here. Put your name in the chat and just say hello. Tell us where you're tuning in from, because wherever you are, we want to know how long your day is. So put that in there, and be sure and like us on social media. And if you don't like us, it's okay. Don't put anything. So anyway, we just want to welcome you to our show today. And does it feel like it's summer to you, Gil? Well, Gil is in New Mexico and I am in California. And as you know, weather is pretty unpredictable wherever you are. So how does it feel to you?
Well, it's felt like it kind of turned to summer a few days ago. It felt like it got very warm all of a sudden. And it I think last night, I don't know, it might have gotten down to 60, but I just was going to tell people how warm it really was, because it's kind of incredible. It was 83 degrees at 11 o'clock this morning.
Wow.
So I'm sure it's warmer, but we don't hit our hottest time usually until sometime around 6 or 7 at night, which again is very different from California, where you tend to hit it around 3 or so in the afternoon, and then it starts to cool off. Here, as long as that sun's up, man, yeah, we're at 90 right now.
Well, our weather right now says it's 58 degrees. It doesn't feel like that. The sun is shining out there, but 58 degrees. I mean, it is, if you're not in the sun, it's cool. If you're standing in the sun, then it's hot. But it doesn't quite feel, it doesn't have that, like, summer to me kind of mellows out to where it's going to be warm.
It's going to be warm, right? No matter what, even if it's a little cool when you get up, it's going to be warm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in California, we've learned to do layers, right? So you might put on a sweater, but you're going to take it off, kind of thing. But it's not, you can't depend on anything anymore. Does this mean I'm getting old, or is it true? Because I feel like I sound like old people sounded to me. What? But it's true. You can't depend on anything. Sorry.
Well, weather-wise, no, it's very different. I mean, yesterday morning at 9:30, we were driving in the rain.
Yeah.
And it was relatively cool, but by an hour later, it was hot.
So this brings up our topic for today, which is like seasons of change, or change of seasons. Do the seasons change you? How do the seasons affect us? That's what we're going to be talking about. But before we do that, how's your week been?
Busy, crazy busy.
That's good, right?
It's good. It's good. Look at that. Even now, my phone decided it wanted to ring. It's crazy busy, but it's because there's a crazy amount of energy just flowing. And I don't know, is that related to the season change as well? Is that sort of feed into that people are kind of gearing up? And I don't know, because to me, the longest day of the year is both wonderful and disappointing, because now it means the days are just going to get shorter from here on out. So
say more about that. As trained professionals, we know to turn off our technology before we go on air. So let this be a lesson to any of you who are trying this at home, to please turn off your phones and computers and alarms before you try to broadcast. And back to you, Gil.
Thank you. I've turned it off now. I'm good. Ah,
So what were you going to say about that?
just that it's is it that things have kind of peaked, or is it just that things are ramping up and people are getting excited to, like we have sort of these couple of months at least that are going to be really warm and nice and stuff going on. Um, but in the life of my center, the work I'm doing is just like constant activities are coming up. People are wanting to be involved in things. We're setting dates all the way through the end of the year in order to plan dates out 5 or 6 years into the future. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. And tonight I start the first class that I've done since I've been here.
And what class is that?
Change your thinking, change your life.
Nice. And is that open to anyone?
It
Even
is.
the listeners?
So here's the deal. And the listeners could benefit from this because I'm doing an in-person class on Wednesday nights in Albuquerque, but I'm doing the same class online on Thursday mornings between 10 and 12:30 Mountain Time. And I am open to anyone that wants to come on. I guess I should send my producer during the break the link for that. That would be a good idea.
Let me give you another tip, folks. Do pre-plan so that you have all of your notices and announcements ready. Okay. Anyway,
We're doing a training show today.
I'm sure it's going to be a great class and change your thinking, change your life. Hopefully, all will learn.
Are you trying to say something?
Oh, I'm not trying. You haven't asked me how my week was yet.
How was your week?
Did you just put something in your mouth?
No.
Oh, dear God. What has happened here? Do you not realize we're not on Zoom? It's not the two of us.
I was just eating a banana. Come on.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Well, let me just say, this sort of is what my week has been like. Things just keep happening that I'm like, really? For real? Is this really happening? From kids to people, friends to spousal communication. It's been a wild ride, It's very interesting. I think it's very interesting being in New Thought and metaphysics and all of those things and watching being in a place where you watch your reactions and others and just watch and not necessarily judging, but just an awareness of how human we all can be and how much tolerance there is when one person is humanness shows up as opposed to another person's. And then there's just, straight up being a butthead. So that's all. That's how my week has been.
Thanks, Beavis. Oh, well,
Yeah.
you like me had much of your time consumed by family meetings and conversations as well, in addition to whatever else was going on. So I know that added to any stress and whatever for the week.
Yeah. Well, and along those lines, I just want to say, if there's truly, really only one of us here, and if everyone who shows up in our life is showing us an aspect of who we are or what we need to heal or what we need to deal with, this is exhausting. There's just no, I'm not kidding, because I I mean between you and kids and everything else, it's like that's a lot to be with.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot to be with. It's a lot to be with. It's a lot to be with, all of our, I mean, I know this from, and you know it from all the things that you do, but when you sit down to prepare a talk or work on a class and you're looking at stuff and you're going, oh, crud. how does this show up in my life? You know, and it always does. It always does. And that becomes the interesting part of being out there and doing stuff, is that there's so much within me that I would like to grow into or out of, one of the two.
Amen to that. And we're going to talk more about that. But first, we're going to talk about the good news. Because there's so much going on in the world that we don't think is so good, that it's always refreshing to find the good news. So what do you got, Gil?
Well, I actually found some information on a plane that NASA is developing. And the whole idea is that it actually comes out to a net zero emissions aircraft.
I saw that.
And so there's a bunch of dollars being poured into this concept. And you know, some of our biggest companies working on it, and they expect to have, they already have concepts, but they expect to have really something that can achieve this by 2050, which sounds like an incredibly long ways away. But as we know, it's not really.
No,
it's not really. And how wonderful it is that, you know, government is looking beyond 3 years down the road or 2 years down the road for an election, you know, because that's just it, you know. If we get focused on everything that's right in front of us, then there's no expansion for what can come next. And I think that's the beautiful thing about this concept, this idea. So I just wanted to share that. I thought that was very interesting and positive.
Yes, I saw that. I thought it was very interesting and exciting. And welcome, Sherry Lynn, who's driving and won't be able to comment. We know you're there in spirit, and we know you'll find a way if you have something to say, because that's the kind of woman you are.
Love you, Sherry.
So mine, I decided I would play the video instead of talking. So hit it. I'm ready.
Okay.
So they're picking up well.
For more than a decade, Gert-Jan Oskam has been trying to relearn to walk. A motorbike accident in his late 20s left him paralyzed from the hips down, changing his life forever. But now, Oskam is back on his feet, thanks to groundbreaking digital implants in his brain and his spine.
After 2 days, within 5 to 10 minutes, I could control my hips.
It works like this. When Oskam thinks about taking a step, a brain implant picks up the signals and sends them to a computer strapped to his back. The computer decodes it, then transmits the signal to a device in his spinal cord, triggering his legs to move. Scientists say it's like a digital bridge that bypasses the damaged part of his spine.
The patient has first to learn how to work with his brain signals, and we also have to learn how to correlate this brain signal to the spinal cord stimulation.
Scientists were shocked to find it may have helped close the gap in his nervous system.
I'm here.
In less than a year, Oskam gained the ability to walk with crutches even when the device is turned off. Life-changing abilities he didn't have after a previous experimental implant, which only let him take a few clunky steps.
I am in full control of what the stimulation does. And that gives me a lot of freedom, which I didn't have with previous therapy.
Researchers say it's an incredible step forward from older technologies that could detect brain signals or stimulate muscle movement, but not both.
Putting all those components together in a human with spinal cord injury and having them talk in quasi real time, it's a breakthrough, really.
It's not a cure. Oskam can still only walk several hundred feet a day and stand without help for a few minutes. But for the first time since his accident 12 years ago, Oskam can do things most of us take for granted, like get out of a car or stand at a local pub.
It was a long journey, but at the end, I can really build functional things from it.
A long journey now giving hope to other patients still striving to take that first step. So far, Oskam is the only person to experiment with this digital bridge. But Swiss scientists who published the case today in the peer-reviewed journal Nature say they're planning future studies involving people with paralyzed arms and hands and even stroke victims. Tom?
So I thought this was super interesting. I thought it was super interesting because I think it speaks so much to what we do in New Thought. And, like, how much power does our brain really have when they're all excited, that he can take some steps without the computer and that he can manage standing and that he can get out of the car. But he's retraining his brain, whether the computer's there or not, right? So I just found it super interesting because I think it's connected. Does that make sense?
It really speaks to how adaptable we truly are. And also, I mean, I think the whole thing about creating a bridge is fascinating. But yes, the most fascinating piece was that he was beginning to have some function without the system in place.
Yeah.
And that kind of, wow, how does that work?
And when they said he can only walk several hundred feet without it or something like that, I was like, whatever, something like that. I mean, it was like, that's a lot. That's a big deal for a beginning stage when your brain has believed that it's paralyzed and can't walk. I mean, to retrain, anyway, I just think it's pretty miraculous and goes hand in hand with all that we do and all that we teach and all that we believe and all that we say. So that's the story. So welcome to John and welcome to Myrna. Bienvenidos. Hola a todos. And I'm so glad you're all here. And we're talking about seasons and change and the summer solstice and how seasons affect change in our lives. So start thinking about that. Do you start to feel different during summer? Do you get a different feeling during fall or winter? And how does that affect how you act and what you're doing out there and all those good things? And yeah, that happened this week too, John. Thanks for reminding us.
It's been a crazy week. Yes.
We actually have our fourth grandchild. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. So that's the story. We have a new grandchild. So welcome Milo to the world.
Yes. He's a little 5.5 pounder right now and working his way out of the NICU, and he should be good to go in a few days, actually. So it's very exciting.
Yay. So join us right back here on New Thought Media Network in a minute, and we'll see you then.
Thought Radio, music from all your favorite New Thought artists. From Jamie Lula, Karen Drucker, Gary Lynn Floyd, Ricky Byers, Daniel Nahmod, Eddie Watkins Jr., and many, many more. 24/7 New Thought Radio. Positively inspiring.
Hello, welcome back to Rockin the Love. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and we are just grateful to be here with you today on this Wednesday in June, the summer solstice.
Yes.
Wow.
I can't believe that June is almost over.
I can't believe that either. You know, I was thinking the first time I officially spoke, before I was even on payroll, but was last Father's Day in Albuquerque.
Oh,
So it's been a full, and we were all here then. It's kind of crazy. So, you know, that reminded me about this idea of seasons and how, you know, how do seasons, I mean, there's the seasons of the year, and there's the seasons of our life, and how do those things go together? You know, I mean, it's such an interesting thing because it feels like there's shifts and changes that happen that allow us to be in a different space, just like the seasons. I mean, they're just like now we hit into the longest part day of the year, and this, you know, this expansion of warmth and all of that happens in summer. You know, how does that kind of thing happen in our lives as well?
I think that's a great question. I do. And I think actually that we should bring out our producer to start with the summer solstice, and then we can go on to other conversation. So I want to bring out Michael Mangus, who brought himself out, who will be having a show tonight that he's going to tell us about in honor of the summer solstice.
So go.
Well, you know what? It would help if I went ahead and I turned my mic on.
Tell you this whole show is a teaching moment.
What now?
This whole show is a teaching moment.
Yes, we need to be professionals here. No, tonight, what I'm doing here is about a half an hour, 40 minutes on, again, just being aware of the seasons. I think it all has significance. You know, Gil was talking earlier about the winter solstice, and, you know, that was the return of the light. Now, the summer solstice talks about the whole idea of living fully in the light. So I think that's what begs the question here is, are we living fully in the light? Are we using our talents and our abilities? Are we being the God being that we are? And again, this is not about shame or blame. This is about, again, just taking advantage of the energy of the season and saying, okay, what is going on, you know, in me? You know, the other thing about, and I was reading this earlier about moving into new experiences. The light, you know, brings us into new experiences. It bridges things to be able to do that. So it allows us, again, to take inventory about how we are using our potential, how we are really living in the light. And Native Americans and other indigenous cultures are very aware of the seasons. You know, everything is cyclic. So everything goes in a circle. So I think so tonight we're going to talk about the light. We're going to talk about the light as talked about by this guy by the name of Ernest Holmes. I don't know. Have you guys ever heard of him?
Heard rumors.
Holmes.
Heard rumors. Yeah.
Heard rumors. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to talk about him. Let's see what else. We'll talk about again about the indigenous traditions and how we can use the light in our lives to heal, to prosper, to put the light on areas that in our life seems dark, and then
Now, what time is that?
infuse them with light. Go ahead.
What time is that happening?
That's at 7:00 Eastern Time here on your New Thought Media Network.
All right, so that's 4:00 Pacific and
Right.
5:00 Central.
Right.
For 5
And
o'clock.
Yeah.
And 6:00.
Yeah,
No,
well,
Mountain,
everyone
6
can
o'clock
figure that
Central.
out.
Anyway,
No, I just think that again, that light is a very powerful symbol, and that again, that whole question of, am I living in the light? I liked what Gil was saying. You go over, if you're teaching a class, you go over the lesson and you go, this is good stuff. Maybe I ought to start living it. So again, see, that's what the seasons give us an opportunity to take a look at. There's from other traditions, there's other magical qualities and other things, but the whole idea of light, I think that's the one thing that we all can agree upon. Again, how can we live from the light? Again, referring to the show, how can we live in the light with our relationships?
yeah.
Are we being honest in our relationships? Are we being able to ask for what we want in our relationships? Are we being able to be a good friend in the relationship? So I think that it really gives everyone an opportunity with the, being aware of the seasons. I think just helps me, I think, to grow. So
That's great.
I think what you said about indigenous cultures and being aware of the cycles, and I think that's something that seems to have dropped out of some of our Western understanding, is this cyclical nature of life and how it continues to repeat, and how we have in some ways, how great it is that we have the opportunity to come back to it again. Just because we flew by it last time doesn't mean it's not going to show up again and give us the opportunity to look at it. So that's very interesting.
Well, I also think when we sync that up with our lives, like, we say coming into the light for the solstice and all of that, but when we sync it up with our feelings, I mean, we may start to see some similarities in how that really works. Because, for example, I'm thinking about you, Gil, and how, you don't like the rainy weather or the foggy weather, the darkness of it. You don't like it when it's got that dark feeling. Like we always talked about, it would be hard for you to live in London because of the foggy, dark nature of it.
How about Ohio?
Probably that too.
That too, yeah.
That you feel much better in the sun and in the light and in all of that. And so, I mean, it just takes me to that same place of, so in the light, is that when you get more motivated to live into, into what you want to accomplish in your life? Or is that when you are more energized to, like you said in the beginning of the show, oh, we're so busy, we're doing schedules, we're doing this, we're doing that. Is that when it becomes easier to do that? Because in your body somewhere, you're allowing that to be the pathway. Whereas I love it when it's foggy and dark and rainy and cold. That makes me all creative, and I want to, write a book or something. So it's, it's interesting the way the seasons play out like that, right?
Well, every season brings its particular thing, and you have the growth over that springtime, and it's interesting because I was noticing, the flowers here in the desert, and things tend to really come out in April, but there's so many kinds of flowers in the desert that last a really long time. So it's not like other places where they're coming, they're gone. they keep going even through. So it's just interesting how different things react differently to the changes in the weather, and some are very much able to persist through different times, and other things are very cued into very specific weather patterns or very specific times of the year.
Yeah, Sherilyn says, I can't do it either. I have to have the sun or I'm sad a lot. Yes. And can I just say that for me, full spectrum bulbs really help. I have full spectrum bulbs in my studio. That seems, if you have any kind of seasonal affected depression, that really, full spectrum bulbs really help, I think, with that. But getting back, I think, to the whole idea of the light, it really can allow us to take a look at the shadow stuff, the shadow side. And it's not to really even to change it, but it's just to be there and to look at it and to just to observe it. And I think that observer self is developed in meditation, that the more that you spend the time each and every day that in meditation, that what happens is it seems like something outside of yourself, but it's not. It's just something that just says, whoa, maybe you don't want to do that. Or, whoa, you're getting really angry when someone cuts you off. So I think that, again, observing those things, again, being in the light, I think is a really good thing. At least for me, it is.
I think it's really interesting what you said about the shadow, because what struck me was how that on this particular day, we have the most opportunity to observe shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the longest day of the year. And when you have that, generally speaking, summer, more sun, etc., it actually brings out and sharpens the shadow. And yet you have the light so bright, refreshing you and rebuilding you. So, wow, how interesting is that on a metaphorical level?
Yeah, shadow, I think that, and again, when there's a tendency, I think, in our society to blame other people, and to, when we have situations in our lives and they may be involved, but still that there's parts of us that are extremely active in that too. And the other part of the shadow self that Jung talked about is for us to be able to accept those parts of ourselves, and then, but not to necessarily act out on them. The shadow stuff, for me is, like anger and, also depression and anxiety. So, can I take a look at those in a compassionate, loving manner and say to myself, how can I help myself? What do you need to get through this? What do you need to support you? So I think it's a very, living in the light's a very loving way to live. So
it gives us the opportunity to walk with our shadow.
Well, and I think Myrna says, I do better in the sunny places. And then she said, although the cloudy areas bring another side of me and thus tell me the importance of balance, which is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So again, these times, the seasons just give us an opportunity, I think, to be able to just to reflect, like, for example, like Christmas and also the New Year, what we just came through with the pandemic. It gave a lot of people a lot of time to reflect and say, well, is going to my job and spending a total of 2 to 4 hours a day commuting, is this worth spending my life doing? Can I do something maybe else, maybe at home or something else, so that I can not only better utilize my time, but I can also be there for my loved ones and for my family. So I like what Myrna says. She says, there are no mistakes in God. Yes. And being that there's no mistakes in God, there's no mistakes in us. And so, and I think too, living in the light also means, again, living from our power, understanding that we are powerful beings, that the light of God is within us, and that it really allows us then to be creators in our lives. We are creative anyhow, but to be an active creator, to saying, okay, how can I use this great presence and power that's flowing through me to go ahead and to really to invigorate my life? And so the question I get asked a lot in classes, like in foundations, is, well, how do I change my life? This is all good theory. How do I change my life? And it's very simple, that I think it eludes people. You don't have to read a book to find this out. You have to consciously move thought in the direction that you want instead.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to experience in your life? What do you want? And again, it's not just, I don't want to feel bad. What do you want instead? And then put your focus on that. Now, again, with the young man with the, learning how to walk again, that points out the whole idea of neuroplasticity within the brain, which scientists are finding out more and more about. So if we go ahead, and this is a key to pattern change, is that if we go ahead and we start thinking in the direction that we want, we go ahead and we start planting seeds and also start walking in that direction, that what will happen again is our lives will change. Because again, that we're walking in the light, we're walking in that newness. We're going ahead and saying, yes, that happened in the past, but here I've chosen today. I've chosen to go ahead and to give direction to my subconscious mind to change things around here. So again, I'm working with young man here for a program, change your story, change your life. So I think that again, these times of the year give us opportunity again for reflection, and also for an opportunity to change and to go in another direction if we want to, or to make better what we have. I think that sometimes there's complacency in people's lives, especially in this teaching, about, well, that's good enough. Well, it could be better. And this isn't a reflection upon you, because you're whole, perfect, and complete. It's just that the whole idea is that we can, if things are good, they could even be better. So that's where, again, that we go ahead and we consciously give direction to the subconscious, then to go into that direction. So.
Yeah, when you were talking about the young man in the story, I realized too that none of that would have been possible had he not allowed it to be possible for himself. Because for one thing, he said, it's taken a long time, but I'm here. So he consistently was willing to keep moving forward through that time. And having someone do, this kind of experimentation on you, etc. If you're convinced it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And if you're convinced that, when you first think, move my hips, and your arm goes up, nothing's working, then nothing's going to be working, right? You have to keep working at it and trusting that your intention is this is my intention is to be able to move my body again the way it used to, or some way that I can move my body and walk. And if all I think is, well, that's how it is, good enough, there I am.
It's done unto you as you believe, a wise teacher once said.
Yep.
So that's why we pray, knowing that's already answered. When you pray, believe that you've already received it and it is done unto you. Again, that's the great teachings of Jesus that I think that sometimes are overlooked. So again, that's again, that's been spiritual practice for years. So
Yeah. Yeah. And yet all of us struggle with it. And as you said, the seasons kind of give us this renewed space to take a moment and reflect and think about it.
Yeah. Well, like, for example, like the fall season gives us an opportunity to reflect on change, the impermanence of everything. You know, that's one of the reasons why the Buddhist monks wear kind of an orange color, is because it reminds the monk of the impermanence of all things, including themselves. So the the winter solstice gives us an opportunity then to go ahead and know that even in the darkest periods of our life, that the light will return. So that, again, that to become more aware of those things, and again, because most of us live our lives inside, we're not sometimes aware of nature and the cycles and the seasons, and to know again that it can change. It will change. Yeah, I don't think you would do very well here, Gil, in Ohio. we have sun today, and we have a temperature today at 82 degrees. But
Nice.
during the wintertime, it gets pretty chilly and cold and stuff like that. But again, there's even during the winter season, that there's life going on that we don't see.
Mm-hmm.
That again, that the things that again, that we can relate that to to manifesting, is that sometimes again that we have planted our seed in the ground, but we don't see it yet. But again, there are things going on behind the curtain that we know that will produce our good in our lives.
Yep.
And Cheryl Lynch says, I like that. Even in the darkest hours of our life, that the light will return. You see, that's the reason for community. That's the reason why I stress to my people what we'd like to see at least once a week. And again, it's not because of some type of guilt thing. It's because, again, that it's a reminder for us when we gather together is again to live in that light. And that again, it reminds us again. I read that guy Ernest Holmes every day.
So
Because I need to remember that whole idea of the light. Go ahead, Robyn. I'm sorry.
that's okay. No, that's okay. Yeah, and I just want to add. I mean, I think with what you're saying that that. Okay, I'm going to ask that question in a second, producer Michael. But I think with what you're saying, I think it's true. But I think the seasons, all of this we have made up, right? We have made up the seasons mark this, that, and the other thing, and all of that. So I think that they're just a bigger reminder. But I think you can find those things in everyday life all the time to bring you back to where you need to be. And as we've said, the light amongst the darkness. And Myrna says, do you all three believe that there will be a point where humanity can live more into seeing the light and stay in the presence and power of love versus living in the darkness and in the fear? That our talk made her think of this.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I believe that we're seeing that right now. We're seeing the birth pains of that right now. Mm-hmm. That I think that it's messy. Mm-hmm. A friend of mine, like birth, it's messy. But once the baby, it's painful. Once the baby is there, though, again, there's great joy. So I think this is what we're going through right now, and to have people who are aware, not better, but who are aware of their own divinity, to be there for other people, to shine the light for other people. So I believe we're all here this time in this incarnation for a reason. And that's because, again, the great shift that's going on in our world. not only here in the United States, but around the world. So as people are letting go of religion and embracing a spiritual practice or spiritual living, that I think that, again, that's why I think that this is our time, as far as with New Thought goes, that we have an opportunity here to present our message that is non-dogmatic, that, again, it talks about being love. It talks about, again, living from the highest. So,
And I just want to add to that. I mean, I agree, and I think that it is a happening, and I think that our job is to acknowledge it. Our job is to not live into the tendency for people to go, oh, but I don't know if we'll see it in our lifetime, or oh, it's taking so long, or oh, it's not really happening. Because I think if we really look at the evidence, we can see it. And it actually reminds me, Gil and I were on a call with Marianne Williamson the other day, and I said to her, because she too was talking about, why can't I say love from the podium? When she's in politics, why can't I say love? And I thanked her for her bravery and her courage, and for truly changing the dialogue in politics the last time. Because even though she may feel like what she did was nothing, but what we began to hear was people could then talk about love from that platform. People could then talk about more human issues. People could be more relatable in that way. And I think as long as we keep the courage and the strength and the focus to stand in the truth of what we know, I think that there can only be that happening.
and I also think too, again, recognizing again the divine nature in each other. That when I'm yelling at somebody, I'm yelling at the divine. When I'm upset with somebody, I'm being upset with the divine. And again, if we're all one, then really I'm yelling at myself, or I'm getting upset at myself. So I'm not one of those metaphysicians that say don't feel my feelings, because I did that for many years and stuffed a lot of feelings. What I do now is I notice when I'm angry. I notice when I feel hurt. I notice when I feel sad. I notice those things. And again, just let myself just be in it just for a moment so that I can release it and let it go. And that, I think that's the trick for living in the light, is again, that to be fully present, even with your feelings, and not to go ahead and to stuff or to, put under the rug what I'm feeling in the moment. So I think that's very important for me.
Yeah, that's interesting, because Robyn asked me about my sermon last week, and what I was talking about was that pleasure is easy, and I was juxtaposing at this idea that we talk about living in the moment and really choosing in the moment and being fully present in the moment. But what most of us do, instead of being in whatever that pleasure possibility is in that, is we put something over it that gives us temporary pleasure, that blocks out whatever else. So we actually are unavailable to be present in the moment. And that's what I heard you saying there. We push it away, and then it becomes, we just pretend it's not there, and then we can't get through it and do anything with it.
And that's why, again, a daily practice of meditation is so important. If you're too busy to stay still for 20 or 30 minutes, then you're too busy. And I say that in much love, is for you to function as a wonderful spiritual being, is that time that you spend each and every day just being in the silence. Holmes but this was his job though. Okay. He used to spend 2 or 3 hours a day inside in the light. So even if you don't want to, if you start spending 20 minutes, in the morning and possibly in the evening, and really just again being still and knowing again of your divine nature. The kingdom of heaven is not something out there, it's within us. That is the gospel, the good news of what we teach in New Thought, is that we are tabernacles of the Most High, and that we need, I think that the challenge again to all the world's issues and problems is that we don't see the divinity in other people. We see the separation because of our eyes, but we don't understand that the person that's in front of us is again one with, and also we're one with them too. So again, as we start acknowledging that, what happens again, I think that in and of itself will start bringing about world peace.
Yes. And Myrna says, then what I am getting to is also acceptance of ways that might not be my ways. This includes religion, beliefs, ways of living, culture, customs, etc. Seeing the light in everyone, no matter what.
Yep.
This is what you're speaking to.
And also see, go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead.
No, I was saying that the whole, when we notice other cultures, can we go ahead and notice other people? Can we go ahead and, and say, well, I may not do it that way, but that's interesting. Can we go ahead and can we accept that?
Right.
Can we just love people the way that they are, and also to, to just to love them again, it's, and also appreciate the difference. There's some cultures, that I've been in that again, that maybe that's not the way that I do it, that I personally do it, but it's the way that they do it. And so the whole idea of saying, well, what can I get out of it? And what can I accept from it? What good can I see from it?
Which is what Ernest Holmes said. He didn't say, go out and preach the New Thought way. He said, go out and, take this out and bring back what you get.
Yeah.
So it's a reciprocal teaching and training, and it's not, I think there's always room for expansion.
Well, I think Myrna has a good point in saying that we don't want New Thought to become the way. At least
right.
in our thinking. And I think for me, it's that part of this whole thing is reminding us that reminding us of the value and perfection of everyone and everything, and that all people are seeking the same connection, the same understanding. And so we stand in support of that, however we can do that.
Right.
And I think,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think we've made some good points that are that we're going over, in that back to the theme of like, if the seasons change you, there really are some things you can do to, like your suggestion about the lights, Michael, and knowing like when to, and using meditation as a tool. And if it's not 20 minutes, take 3 minutes. Just begin where you are and really begin to integrate, or start with affirmations, affirming the truth of who you are, the truth of your joy and your happiness and your abundance and whatever it is that you're working on, and really using those tools to anchor the change we want to see.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I agree with Myrna. Again, it's not the way. I agree. It's not the way. And I find it to be a very useful tool for me.
Yeah.
That it's taken me from where I was at to put me into a much better place. So it is my spirituality. It is my relationship. And it's a lot more than just manifesting princes, palaces, and parking spaces. It's my relationship with the divine each and every day. It's really being that everyday mystic. Again, having that relationship with the divine each and every day. So having those two things, I think the reason sometimes people leave our teaching is because they have not reached that part of again, that personal relationship, that again, and that's something that cannot be forced. That's something that's along the path. Again, this is not destination religion. This is path spirituality, where we're on the path with other people. So,
Well, I think the reality is that many people in many religions don't reach that space of spirituality that they're seeking, or they don't really seek it intentionally or with enough whatever to allow themselves to get there. So I don't think that's not unique to this teaching. And I think also that gives me that whole other thing about honoring where people are, because many people are extremely intentional and spiritual and introspective, all those things, within the construct of whatever system they're in, and I think that's a beautiful place that we can really honor people.
from master control, we're running out of time.
Yes.
I'm going to get out of the picture and let you guys wrap it up. Thank you for having me on today. I really appreciate it. Come join us tonight, 7:00 Eastern time here on your New Thought Media Network as we celebrate the solstice. Thank you.
Thanks. All right.
Oh, Myrna says thank you. She's missed us, and today she paused and remembered that we were live. We are live. Thank you, God.
Thanks, Myrna, for joining us. Thank you, Sherry and
John and
up there, and
Rev Kev's out there.
okay. Wow.
Feel it. And all the rest of you who didn't chit chat with us, we hope you will do that next week. And I think that's it. We just want you to go out there and in what Myrna said, and people living into the light. Let's all go out there and rock the love. See, look, I knew Rev Kev was out there. I could feel it. You can't hide. You cannot hide. That is one thing we know for sure. So don't try. Shine your light this week, everybody. Happy summer solstice. Happy Pride. Happy Juneteenth. Happy Father's Day. Rock the love.
Rock it.